Sorry, Nika Whaitere.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair, good call. Tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Chair, it is indeed my honour to stand in support and solidarity with my colleagues, particularly from the Canterbury area, who stand up in support of the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Bill. Sir, I'm a member of the Select Committee, but for the duration of this particular bill, gave way to those Canterbury MPs that obviously know their patch more than I can ever do, but I do want to make a small contribution of support. Sir, about this time last year, 2015, we had tens of thousands of Māoridom descend on Hadley Park, one of the showcase pieces in New Zealand's Māori calendar of events, Te Matatini. And Sir, it was at that gathering that Sir Mark Solomon held a function as the chairman of Te Runanga Ngaitahu, where he invited iwi leaders, civil leaders and other people of importance, Sir. And at that dinner, Sir Mark shared the story that he never had the opportunity to individually go to the many iwi across the country, the many agencies, to say thank you. Thank you for the support that iwi and agencies across the country came in support of the Ngaitahu Canterbury people during the earthquake, Sir. It was a very telling time at that dinner to hear him relay the stories of not only the tragedy that bestowed on the people of Canterbury, but also the challenges that Ngaitahu themselves, as the iwi of that area, put their hand up to play an active role, Sir. So I just start with that as a small contribution that this bill reminds me of both the challenges that the people of Canterbury had faced and of this bill, Sir, in addressing us over the next wee while. Sir, we are here talking about Part 1, the preliminary provisions. I want to particularly make some small contributions and comments on clauses 3, Clause 3, Part 1, Clause 3, Part 2, and also touch off the Clause 7 in that part in the time I've got remaining, Sir. And people have mentioned that, and I want to also acknowledge the Minister in terms of his shifting on the original bill after working with opposition members through the Select Committee. There were concerns, clearly, Sir, around the experience of the ECAM example, ensuring that local voice was heard. And so when I looked at Part 1, Clause 3C, where we talk about enabling community input, I mean, that's a great start. And, you know, I need to commend the Minister for making sure that the local voice isn't lost in this commitment to regenerating Christchurch. But Sir, then we go to Clause 3, 1D, and we talk about who will be on this Regeneration Christchurch organisation, and we talk about Canterbury Regional Council, Christchurch City Council, Selwyn District Council, Te Runanga Ngaitahu, and Waimakariri District Council. Sir, if you follow me, if you turn the pages to Clause 4, I believe, and it's got B, and it describes what a strategic partner is, and it lists again those 5 groups that I've just mentioned. And so I guess my point here, Mr. Chair, is if we've defined these 5 organisations as strategic partners, then the question in my mind is, why weren't they given the sole responsibility of rejuvenating and leading the plans in Canterbury? And by that, and we'll get to the second part, Mr. Chair, around the role of the Minister. And I guess it goes to the heart of taking that Clause 1C to its ultimate conclusion, which is if these people or these organisations are strategic partners, then why don't we invest the regeneration with these strategic partners? That's the question, Mr. Chair, and maybe the Minister can help us. I understand the central government's putting a lot of resources in it, and they do need to have an overview, but when I read that particular part, Sir, in Clause 3, and we describe them as strategic, And no one's going to challenge any of these 5 groups that they do not know how to manage, that they do not have good governance structures and good management and good plans, sir. And so I guess the question is, Mr Chair? Mr Chair? Thank you, Mr Chair. The question lays out to answer, I guess, this House around if they're strategic, sir, then why aren't we using them to their fullest extent? And I understand that many came to submit during the Select Committee and there was a proposal there. But, you know, for me, maybe the Minister, like I said, can give some, share some clarification around why they're on one hand strategic, but we only using them for some parts of the regeneration, but the veto power still rests with the Minister. Moving to clause 2, sir, and there was some previous mention of the return to what many people will regard as the 4 well-beings. So we're looking at clause 3, part 2, subpart B, where we talk about improving the environmental, economic, social and cultural well-being and resilience of communities throughout the area. And I guess, sir, for many people out there who value the role that local government play in our local communities, that on one hand we're removing the 4 well-beings in the Local Government Act, but here, and I'm not debating that it doesn't have a role here in this bill, sir. What I'm saying, on one hand we take from local government authorities, and yet in this bill we are acknowledging and putting it back in here, sir. And I guess the question again to the Minister is, will we see some consistency that if it's good enough for Christchurch, then why isn't it good enough for the rest of the country, sir? Finally, I do want to just talk about clause 7, and that's the application of the Ngāi Tahu Claim Settlement Act. And for me, not to say anything contrary to my colleague, the member for Te Tai Tonga, that I'm glad that it's there, sir. I'm glad that it recognises the role that Ngāi Tahu will play, not just in the Christchurch regeneration, but Ngāi Tahu Te Waipounamu katoa, sir, in terms of where they have started and where they are and where they plan to be, sir. And I think that that's an opportune time that when we start talking around regeneration, that we start getting serious about partnerships, particularly with iwi post-settlement, the opportunities that they bring with us working in collaboration. And I just hope that that this particular clause, sir, is actually implemented in its fullest, i.e. the values around partnership, working in collaboration, seeing that we actually want the same things, we have different I guess resources and perspectives to bring to the table, sir. And so I want to acknowledge that it's there. The test for me, sir, is whether we live up to that in terms of the way that we interrelate with each other, and that how the larger Regeneration Christchurch group see the value that Ngāi Tahu can bring across the 4 well-beings that I've just mentioned in the previous clause. Sir, I'll leave my rest of the contribution to the other parts later on in the bill. Kia ora tātou.
Mr Chair.